Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about a quote from Neville Ray that he predicts the 5G claims will haunt its rivals. So again, another great article by Fierce Wireless. I will leave it in the description down below. And of course, by the rivals, he means AT&T and Verizon, as Dish Network hasn't even really got going yet, and Dish will still operate on T-Mobile's network for at least the next 7 years. So I wanted to talk about the beginning really quickly of this article, where it states, for years, T-Mobile suffered from poor coverage in the U.S. So just really quickly, that is not yet 100% up to par against its rivals. So T-Mobile's coverage over the years has gotten better, but it is not yet up to par against the big two. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there right off the bat. That is not yet. They're gaining more and more coverage each day, but they are still a large chunk behind the big two in terms of the overall coverage and size of its network. Now, why has Neville Ray made these predictions in the 5G claims? So it's very simple, because they own the spectrum portfolio that the other carriers may need and may not have. So how has 5G developed across the world so far? So if we look at other countries, Europe, yes, I understand the fact that the geographical footprint is not as large as the US, but the carriers in Europe, China, Japan, all have used the higher frequency midband 2.5 and up to get their 5G going. So whoever runs the regulatory process in those countries made sure that those carriers have the sufficient midband channels to start operating under what the 3GPP set as a standard for 5G. Right now in the US, as it stands, the only carrier that has that type of spectrum portfolio with large chunks of wideband, midband channels is T-Mobile. That is a fact. Verizon does not own that spectrum, and AT&T currently does not own that spectrum, so they can't make any moves towards anything as it stands right now. T-Mobile has the spectrum. It is cleared, and that is what they're basing this off of right now, a spectrum portfolio. They have not yet incorporated that spectrum 100% into the network. So that's happening as we speak, right? They're moving at a pretty quick pace, but that has not yet translated into the whole network having that spectrum on air. So again, Neville Ray is predicting something based on a spectrum portfolio that they now own since acquiring Sprint Nextel. Now, what does that mean? Is it necessarily true that the current claims will haunt the rivals? That remains to be seen. Verizon is really pushing a technology in millimeter wave that T-Mobile has disagreed with from the beginning, in terms of how Verizon has claimed they want to roll it out. T-Mobile immediately debunked it. They said it would cost trillions of dollars if you wanted to have a somewhat nationwide footprint of millimeter wave. So T-Mobile is still sticking to the story that this will be used in pockets, in venues, some indoor locations, wherever the tools that T-Mobile uses shows that there's higher foot traffic on the network, they will incorporate a millimeter wave where it makes sense, according to Neville Ray. Verizon has taken a similar approach, but they have expanded its footprint to cover larger areas. So instead of just putting it in a venue where traffic is high, in terms of what T-Mobile would do. Verizon has decided, okay, we're not only going to put millimeter wave at the venue, but we're going to cover 2 to 3 miles surrounding the venue with the millimeter wave nodes. So that is not saying that Verizon is really looking for an expansion in the millimeter wave footprint, but they are going to put it in many more places versus a T-Mobile. That is just a fact right now. It's the main technology that they have to work with in terms of giving you a transformational 5G, and that's what they're pushing. Yes, we know C-band is coming next month, which Verizon's going to participate, AT&T is going to participate, and I predict in some way, shape, or form, T-Mobile will also participate in the C-band. Should they be allowed to participate in the C-band? That's a topic for another video. But for now, the need of that mid-band spectrum for Verizon and AT&T is tremendous. But does it necessarily haunt rivals in terms of what they're currently pushing? Not really. I know the DSS is not the story that we all hope for. They are sharing a spectrum slice with two technologies. So again, it was poor planning starting at the FCC. They did not push this mid-band out sooner, and T-Mobile just so happened to get lucky to get this merger approved, and now they're sitting on 319 total megahertz of licensed sub-6 gigahertz spectrum. So it's a great accomplishment for T-Mobile. They can do plenty with that spectrum. Additional money for investments. I mean, who knows where T-Mobile can take this. If it's done correctly, they can really build the network that they speak of. When Neville Ray says this network will blow your socks off, that's exactly what he means, if done correctly. But what the carriers currently are pushing is a 5G logo. So yes, T-Mobile in a sense can say that they have headroom, leadership, they got the portfolio, they can make it happen. That's good and all. But I don't think they should necessarily discredit what AT&T and Verizon are doing. Both of them still have the larger networks as it stands today. T-Mobile in the next 3 to 4 years really has no aggressive plan to expand the network extensively. So again, it's been said many times, if you are in areas that currently have no service, or they have service but it's pushing it 20 miles and the capacity is limited in those areas, do not expect the network to just magically expand. That is not going to happen, based on the fact that that money that they're spending on a yearly basis is tied in right now to a much larger project in the integration. I mean, we're talking effectively T-Mobile integrating 50+ million customers into the network and into the system. So that means combining billing systems, the back end. They got to fix it. It's going to be expensive, and that's in terms of them trying to retain as many Sprint customers as they possibly can. Will a good amount of Sprint customers leave? Yes, that's already happening now. That was expected. I'm sure they had a plan where it stated, this amount of Sprint customers may leave, or maybe even more. So they already expected the worst to happen. And with that business model on a scale of this size, I think T-Mobile is a little blindsided. I know the Metro PCS merger, they completed it and they handled that pretty well, but that was not a merger of this magnitude. 56-something million customers that Sprint had total, including prepaid. That is a much larger size and scale of network to integrate and customers to satisfy. So again, I think Neville predictions are correct, but from a standpoint of him actually having the spectrum portfolio. But we will see. Maybe, well, not maybe, but next month when C-band comes around and Verizon can close that gap little by little as they work through 2021, There are rumors right now that they are looking to clear that spectrum even sooner than December 2021. So there's additional money on the table for Verizon to clear that spectrum sooner. AT&T will likely follow suit on that as well. So a lot can change over the next 12 months, even for T-Mobile, as they have the spectrum portfolio lead. Verizon has the densification, so Verizon doesn't necessarily need 319 megahertz to bolster its network. They may need far less because they have way more tower sites out there, and the spacing is much better now than it was 3 years ago for this mid-band spectrum. So again, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Likely a longer video than I wanted to make, but I just wanted to get those points out there. It's not a clear-cut victory yet for T-Mobile. They still lack network size overall that they have to close. And with the roaming partners potentially being cut off, and the network size of Sprint potentially not being as big, so those Sprint customers that previously had services in those areas with AT&T and the other roaming partners, now that T-Mobile is potentially discontinuing them, those Sprint customers are just going to be on no service because T-Mobile had no service there to begin with. So that's something T-Mobile has to figure out over time. I'm sure it's been discussed. It's in a network model, but now the execution has to be spot on for them to make this fully work. So again, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you're notified when I do upload the content. Also, make sure you like, share on my Instagram and my Twitter. I do post plenty of content on there. I just uploaded another picture yesterday on the Instagram. They're in the middle of a 2.5 rollout. Like I said, El Paso, very good pace, but also very high market share. So take that into consideration compared to other markets that may not have such traffic and it may not go as fast. Thanks again for watching. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.